Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, my friends. We're here today to talk about Street Fighter 6 DLC, and specifically we're talking about Ed today. Ed is our next slated Street Fighter 6 DLC character coming out sometime in winter 2024, so a likely January or February release. And the talk today is simply about Ed being in Street Fighter 6, as of the four characters, he might be the most vanilla of the choices, but he's also potentially the weirdest of the choices. So the inspiration for this video comes to me today by the fact there is allegedly data mined just a render of Ed from Street Fighter 6. We'll see if that plays out or not. Regardless if it's the real deal or not, doesn't matter, Ed's obviously coming to the game. And Ed coming to the game is the weird question, specifically because Ed was the easy operation character in Street Fighter V, right? And now in Street Fighter 6, we have modern controls baked into the game, and it's done a lot of good, maybe a little bit of evil, I guess. Some people are really up in their feelings about modern controls even to this day, but for the people it's designed to help, it's been doing a pretty good job. And Ed was sort of the beginning of that, right? He is Mr. Ease of Use. Part of the Ed design philosophy in Street Fighter V is if you suck at doing motions, if you suck at doing like fighting game stuff, basically, Ed is here to help you because all of his stuff is dirt easy. And then the question is, how exactly does that survive into Street Fighter 6 when regular controls, classic controls, and modern controls are now their own separate things? Like, if you look at Ed's move list in Street Fighter V, it's as easy as it gets. Hit two buttons together, mash some buttons, or hit four in a button, that's it. No Dragon Punch motions, no charge inputs, no half circles, full circles, whatever. It's as easy gets. And how do you reconcile that by splitting it into classic and modern controls, other than say maybe you just don't, and Ed's the exact same either way? But frankly, that's boring. I don't think they'll do that. And there's the other issue with that, he cannot work the same way. Specifically due to flicker jab. So flicker jab is a mash input. You can piano it, all that kind of stuff, so it doesn't have to be just button mashing, but it is there. And the concept of piano/mash inputs has been removed in Street Fighter 6. If E Honda cannot keep those inputs, there is no way it is keeping those inputs. And considering mash moves are balanced around the mash input, that means the move, flicker jab, would have to fundamentally change, if not just become a completely different move. Like for Honda, hands went from plus on block to negative on block in Street Fighter 6, right? So if Ed's flicker jab is to return, expect it to get a decent sized change. And I guess that's one of the things I wonder about in Street Fighter 6, specifically for Ed. Ed's moveset in Street Fighter V is a little bit of a mishmash. They make it very clear he's a Psycho Power user, sure. But I don't know, I felt he never had too much in the way of character identity. Doubly so because Balrog is his quote-unquote father. Balrog is the one that rescued him from the lab, saving him from being, another Bison doll, effectively, right? And he's the one who raised him, trained him, all that stuff. And nominally, Ed's fighting style is supposed to be boxing, but you wouldn't really know it by looking at him. Like, other than, say, flicker jab, what is boxing about Ed? It certainly isn't the bit where he kicks 10 feet up into the sky and then dive bombs back down. That's not very boxing. Maybe I'm getting old, but I don't remember Holyfield busting out one of those in the middle of a match. Like, the boxing identity is there a bit, and I wonder if they're wondering, since Balrog was already in Street Fighter V, they didn't want to step on his toes too much, so he had more traditional boxing moves, and Ed kind of had his own weird flair. The Psycho Power stuff should absolutely be present in my opinion, it's just he could stand to be a bit more boxing, and now come Street Fighter 6, I think they have the opportunity to do exactly that. There is no Balrog in the game, there's also no Dudley, I know that makes some people sad, right? But he is going to be the resident boxer now, right? And just like Rashid before him, Street Fighter V character coming in for Street Fighter 6, everything's going to get reanimated. It's not like, say, Tekken where we import all the animations from game to game to game. Everything's going to be redone from scratch. So now, if ever, is the time to give him a much more succinct martial art identity. Rather than, I just sort of aimlessly use Psycho Power sometimes, and I sure kick a hell of a lot for a boxer. But I don't know, that's just me. Either way, obviously Ed's coming no matter what to Street Fighter 6, and I'm just kind of spitballing on what the future may be. When Modern Controls was first announced, Ed was the first thing I and many other people thought of. Because how do you reconcile Modern Controls with the character that is effectively the progenitor of Modern Controls? So we have that to look forward to, and obviously to just how will he play. Apropos of absolutely nothing, I feel like Ed's in line for a much more major gameplay shift than, say, Rashid was when Rashid made his debut. Like the footage you're seeing here of Ending Walker playing Ed, right? I feel like Ed didn't make much of an impact until Ending Walker kind of picked him up, right? Ed came out like 6 years ago now. It's been a hot minute, yet he doesn't really seem to have left much of a legacy or impact on Street Fighter itself. So he's a prime candidate to really just change things up. Rashid came out, sure, Aki, all new character, so that fresh slate there. And Akuma, you're not messing with the Golden Goose, right? Akuma's gonna be Akuma, he's gonna come out, be probably broken. There's no way they're launching Akuma without him being basically a top tier character, let's call it for what it is. Of Season 1, he is the Golden Goose character, he's the one who's gonna make the most money. So I don't know, maybe this video is a thought experiment, but I'm just really interested in the fate of Ed in Street Fighter 6. From my position where I am, just, viewing the general fighting game audience as a whole, he definitely seems to have the least amount of hype, period. Not to say that people hate the boy or anything, but just the general level of excitement for Ed compared to everyone else is by far the lowest of the 4 characters. Therefore, I feel in a lot of ways, it's kind of the safest character to take some real risks on. There is Ed loyalists out there, and God bless you all. I support you, but there's not that many of them out there. So the form Ed will take in Street Fighter 6 is sort of just a big mystery at this point. And hey, besides the gameplay of the 4 DLC characters, Ed's wildly the most important from a lore perspective. Remember the whole Neo Shadaloo thing? Like, all this is canonical, all this happened. There's a gorilla Ed has that has M. Bison's psycho power and wisdom. Like, that's a real thing. Its name is Baba Mwalimu, and yes, canonically, as per the game director himself, as per Taka Nakayama, has M. Bison's powers, at least part of it. I've said this many times in many videos, for my money, the gorilla is the one who should be playable, not Ed. But I guess we'll take what we can get. If you played the Street Fighter 6 World Tour, you know that Neo Shadaloo is a thing. There's Neo Shadaloo robots, which is like, happens in one sequence and is never brought up ever again, which is very confusing, right? I suppose it is Neo Shadaloo who kidnapped Bosch to begin with. That was a whole thing. You and your pal Bosch. Although it's not really clear if JP is just Shadaloo Remnant or is part of Neo Shadaloo. That part was a little confusing to me, but however it goes, the remnants of Shadaloo are still a thing. Neo Shadaloo is still a thing. And unfortunately, the Street Fighter 6 World Tour mode did not do much to actually progress the lore of Street Fighter. It is still there and Ed's still a thing. Therefore, I'm very interested to see what Ed's going to do, at least plot-wise, lore-wise. His arcade mode will certainly be very illuminating for just the general status and world of Street Fighter. And hey, as for Falk, probably never appearing again now, is she, sadly. Maybe she appears in Ed's arcade mode. That's about the best we can hope for. And that gorilla better show up. Like, legitimately, the most thing I'm hyped for Ed is that the Shadaloo gorilla might make another appearance. But yeah, in the end, that's just a lot of Ed talk. So some of the things we talked about in this video, modern controls, classic controls, how do you think that's going to go? Do you think Ed's going to be retooled as a character? And what do you think about Ed and his importance to the lore? Because of the DLC characters, he's certainly the most important. Feel free to post your comments in the comment section below. And otherwise, well, I guess we are at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Street Fighter.